remember, Cuomo criticized the police a few days ago, saying the police and New York Mayor de Blasio didn't do their job, and he went and apologized like 30 seconds later. So now you have New York City police covering up their identity so that they can do whatever they want, which basically makes legal observers, because I've seen legal observers at these protests, impossible to do your job. You're observing anonymous people. And a lot of times, if you go up to the officer and say, what is your name? They won't tell you. So why would you be covering up your badge if you don't plan on having anything to hide or you don't plan on doing anything wrong? That is...
Well, one thing that's really concerning in D.C. in particular is that they're sending in officers from the Bureau of Prisons who are nameless, badgeless, and they're trained differently than the police because they're trained in prison situations where people don't really have rights anymore. So I think that's horrifying.
So I want to move on because to me, I hope this person runs for New York City mayor. This is public advocate Jumaane Williams bashing Cuomo, de Blasio, and this barbarism.
Now you care about people's lives. And every time this is brought up, you send more police. You send more laws to cause the interactions to be more stressful. So then we started protesting about all of those police and those laws, and you send more police and more laws. I hear the mayor and the governor saying we have to do what we have to do to protect property. We want to make sure we protect property. The governor, Golden, the mayor, they're not doing what they need to do to protect property. I want to say this as a citywide elected official. We must protect property. We must make sure people feel safe. But where is the same energy for black lives? Why are you not saying we have to do everything we can to protect black lives? Why are you not saying, here is the plan that I have, because black lives are not mattering in New York City, in New York State, in this country? Where is that leadership? This is supposed to be the progressive beacon of this country, and we are failing.
I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. Basically, why are they so focused on property, but they don't have the same vigilance in protecting the looting, terrorism, and barbarism against black people? And I don't know, call me cynical Susie, but I think it has a little something to do with capitalism. Because a lot of these businesses that are, you know, boarding up their stores or getting looted, which I'm not advocating looting, don't get me wrong, but, you know, they're major players in the United Corporations of America. They give a lot of money to politicians. Their CEOs give a lot of money to politicians. And this country and this government values corporations over people. Black people, white people, all people. So I think those were powerful words. And frankly, follow the money. We already went through it. Cuomo was bought off by the police unions. He's bought off. And by the way, it's not just the police unions. A lot of the wealthiest donors in America are Blue Lives Matter in their thinking and, you know, protect the police, protect the police. But let me ask you a question. You know, Pelosi and them, we got to give $1 trillion, you know, save our police, save our firefighters. Well, I think the police, maybe it's time to cut police. Maybe it's time to radically cut budgets for pepper spray, for tasers, for, you know, shields like this. You're not going into Fallujah. You're not going into Fallujah. I'm not saying totally defund the police, because obviously there is need for protection. There is need, if your home is broken into, things like this, for police. But look at Los Angeles, for example. The mayor just made it some victory that we're going to cut the police budget by $100 to $150 million. The police budget is $3 billion in Los Angeles. The police are over half of Los Angeles's entire budget. Go figure if you live in Los Angeles why 40 to 50% of the city is poor and falling apart. Your thoughts?
In LA, when they cut the budget, people on Twitter were like, okay, that's like Jeff Bezos donating like $1 million. It really means nothing. It means absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things. And in the talks of defunding the police, I need to do a lot more research in this area. I need to hear a lot more viewpoints. I think for the most part, people don't mean completely defund the police, although there is this movement to abolish the police force, abolish prisons, all of that. Not my area of expertise. I'll listen to other voices on that. But I think in general, it's pretty clear that we need less of a budget for police. You know, teachers, I used to be a teacher. I taught first grade. Little 6 and 7 year olds. I can't count how much money I spent on classroom supplies. And that's the story you hear from classroom teachers all over this country. They are buying their own supplies. So this is not my original thought. I don't remember where I heard it, but when was the last time you heard of a cop having to buy their own bullets? It doesn't happen. These cops they have military vehicles. I actually, so when I was knocked over by police the other day, I've been speaking with this Freedom of the Press Foundation journalist who's doing a write-up on it, and she said, okay, well, where when he hit you, like attacked you with his shield, where did he hit you? And I had to say, well, the shield is so gigantic that basically it hits you everywhere. I guess like he was aiming for upper body, but the thing is enormous. So they, like you said, like they're not going into Fallujah here. They don't need what they are decked out in. Their budgets are just absolutely unreal. Just like the military, the police are not going underfunded in this country. They are way overfunded, and there's a reason for that. We're obviously fans of unions as progressives, but the police unions are
they're not a union.
Pretty darn corrupt.
Not a union. They're a gang.
Yeah, a gang. They have a lot to do with this as well, and they have a lot of influence with politicians, even so-called liberal, good Democratic politicians.
And by the way, just so people understand what we're saying, I don't think the U.S. should be going into Fallujah with these weapons. I don't think the U.S. should be going into Iraq with this kind of military weapons. You know what? If the United States would drop more books, if the United States would drop more food and water and help for other countries, rather than invading them, rather than coming in with Uzis and tanks and GI Jackass as the United Corporation's mantra, we shouldn't be doing this in Fallujah, and we shouldn't be doing it in Brooklyn, and we shouldn't be doing it. You know, it's one thing if you're actually attacked like we were in 9/11. I agree with going to Afghanistan. I think, frankly, we should have went to Saudi Arabia.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, it was really Saudi Arabia.
Well, no. I mean, bin Laden, some of the planning, yes, but a lot of the planning went on in Afghanistan, but the actual hijackers were from Saudi Arabia. But we would never go into Saudi Arabia because we want that money, baby. We need that oil money. So the point is, the United States is on offense around the world. We're not defending the country. We are invading other countries. And the United States is on offense here. The police are on offense here. They're not defending themselves. Yes, there are protesters throwing water bottles at police. Yes, in some cases, there are protesters throwing objects at police. I understand the hatred. I understand the anger. I can't condone that because I just don't think throughout history that kind of protest works. And I think you lose your righteous method. I think you lose your righteous method if you're throwing bricks at police and I have seen that personally with my eyes. So that I don't condone because I don't think it's effective, and I also think it gives the media and the politicians the ammunition to discredit the whole movement, which they're looking to do. But
I don't know. I kind of disagree there. I'm not condoning violence, but I also think it's at a place where the peaceful protests are not working. Martin Luther King, everyone holds up Martin Luther King Jr. as an example of this, and obviously just amazing legacy, did so much. He was also murdered. So, and infiltrated. And people are at this point where peaceful protest, here we are, all these decades later. What has changed? So people are at this place where, okay, if us being peacefully out in the streets is not making change, I'm angry. I'm going to throw this rock at this police who's wearing Kevlar and this giant shield and who will never feel it anyway, but I'm angry, so I'm going to do it. So I don't think, I think it's a hard thing. I think it's very easy to be, you know, a white person and say, no, violence is bad, looting is bad, but there's a reason for it. And if there is this unrest and these consequences, things have to change. Burning down that precinct in Minneapolis was a moment. Do we think that Ellison would have been assigned as the Attorney General, would he have been assigned as the prosecutor on this case had this unrest, had this looting and property damage and burning down of the precinct? And what a moment that was. And thankfully we got that moment on camera. Would those other 3 police officers, along with Derek Chauvin, be in jail right now? Would they be charged? We don't know the answer. Maybe they would, but I think maybe not if people have just been standing out there holding signs and going to bed by 8 p.m.
I actually agree with you on that part. I guess where we disagree is I actually think the police burning was a good thing. I don't know if I would agree if the protesters knowingly burned down the police headquarters with people in it. I think knowing that it was empty, I do think, you know, sometimes you have to take aggressive action, even what would be considered violent action, to make a statement. And I think that police headquarters burning was what you were just talking about, very, very symbolic. I guess what I'm talking about is like I have seen protesters, not the plurality, but in some cases I have seen protesters throwing rocks, throwing things like that. And I think that the rage at the reason for doing it, I understand. But the powers that be are looking for any reason to not only discredit you, but turn public sentiment away from you. So to me, it's been twofold why this movement is starting to work. You're starting to see, the 3 other officers were charged. The main officer's charges were upgraded. There's more national outrage about Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor. You're seeing calls to fire the police commissioner, the police union head in Minneapolis, which might actually happen. But I think the reason all that is happening is not specifically because of the looting. It's because of the sustained, massive, coordinated protests around the country, which we have not seen since MLK's assassination. I think the sheer numbers of it and the continued basis of it, how long this is going on, and it seems to continue to go on, I think is why you're starting to see change. I think I agree with burning down the police station. I also, frankly, can't say I have a major problem with burning police cars.
Well, who cares if like the Chipotle gets broken into? Who cares if they steal Gucci bags? It also comes down to a class reasons. I just can't.
I don't agree with.
They can go steal the Gucci bags they want.
But you want to know something? Okay. Yeah, who cares if they, knock into Chanel or the massive Macy's here, and which obviously has insurance and this and that. But there's also like mom and pop businesses that have worked their whole lives to build that, to get the money, to build up even their bodega on the side of the road. Like my parents, for example, were scared the other day. They work 7 days a week, like my whole childhood. My parents work in a small business. I don't agree with my dad's politics, but they certainly have no racial bias against black people. So like, yes, I understand there's collateral damage for the cause, but I don't agree with like just innocent business owners having their stores looted and broken and bashed in, because there's no rhyme or reason to that, and like they're not the reason for this brutality. You want to burn down the police station? By all means. You want to burn down police cars? I don't have a problem with it. But I do think that is symbolism. But when you start bashing in just like random smaller stores, I just don't think that's a good thing, because it's, you know, it's not easy to build a business, even a you know, concession store or something like that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. But I also, and I know a lot of Black people don't agree with the looting, especially of the small mom and pop stores. And I think in general, those are not the targets. And there are bad actors who are taking advantage of this moment, but that's what they want you to focus on. People in the media and people in power want us to focus on, oh, the looting. Oh no, they destroyed this small mom and pop store. How are they going to rebuild? That is unfortunate. It should be reported on, but it's not the focus.
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com, where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.